Good evening, folks. We are live and up and running. Let me get everything switched over and loaded up, and we will commence the potential drawing of arts. All right, let me unmute desktop. I'm going to run through the BGM playlist. I think everything is good to go. Let's see, we have a hydrate, stretch, and a save reminder right off the bat from Capri Sun. What's happening, Capri Sun? I see Red Dragon hanging out. How are you folks doing this Tuesday evening? Right, what day of the week it is? Hopefully everyone is doing all right. Sounds like less than ideal from Red Dragon. Well, again, hopefully things get better, dude. All I can do is offer chill vibes in these trying times. Iconic says, can't stay, sadly, but dropping by to wish you a great stream. Best of luck making rad art. Alright, Iconic, thanks for popping in and saying hi. I will definitely catch you later, so have yourself a good evening. Alright, I was working on some primary stuff while the stream was loading, getting set up. Let me explain what we're going to be doing today, and then we'll jump right into it. So I've done a lot of work with potential character designs, character ideas, etc. here on stream. And they're usually kind of one-off ideas for brainstorming ideas in general. You know, we'll have a character and kind of draw the character start to finish, experiment with different outfits and whatnot. We've done it for a couple different times for just a couple of examples, and I haven't done anything with those characters. Today, we're going to be doing a similar exercise, but this is for something that I'm actively working on. I can't really talk too much about it because I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the project, but it's something I've been trying to make progress on for a while and just haven't because I've been so busy. So what we're going to be doing is we're creating some concept reference sheets, and I'm sketching up some primaries here to kind of explain what I want to put into these. So it's going to be very similar to what we've done before, but it's primarily going to be sketch concepts, because what I need to do, and we're definitely not going to get all of this done today, but I'm trying to chip away at doing a set of these for some specific things within some stories and stuff that I'm writing. I know I've mentioned that before, but I'm basically trying to compile like an informational overview document of this fictional world and everything that goes in it. And in addition to the narrative descriptions of everything, I want to be able to have visual representations of ideas, and so that's what this is for. And so we have my goal between now and whenever I finish working on this, and doing it on stream is going to force me to chip away. I need to get 11 reference documents done for this project so I can add it to the narrative thing that I'm working on the side. So it's a part writing project, part art project, and I've left it sitting for a long time, and I want to bring it back and hopefully collab with some other people too that can maybe help bring that project to life. And then if I feel like it's a viable product, then maybe I can share it with all of you folks, because I know I talk about it a lot and you haven't really seen much, and I'm trying to figure out, you know, how to do all these things to realize the project instead of just having a bunch of ideas. And so what we're going to be doing, I'm going to sketch a few heads here to use, and then I'll explain what the models under my screen are for and everything else, and that's going to be kind of our model to follow whenever we work on this particular project. I don't know if it's going to be on multiple streams. We'll see how it goes today. And then just kind of play it by ear in the future. So this is a bit of a work stream today compared to some of the other ones, but hopefully the creative process will at least be interesting to you folks. Since I tend to jump around a bit whenever we're doing drawing streams. Sometimes it's stuff like this. Sometimes it's the sprite stuff for Pokemon. Sometimes it's just creature design. So we're focusing on character and character-based lore for today. I'm gonna have to figure out how to turn the symmetry command on for Clip Studio. Not gonna really matter for this because it's just we're just sketching ideas out, but that would make it a lot easier when I'm doing head-on renders. But for this, it's fine. Capri Sun says, I need to play Pokemon Infinite Fusion. Watch the guy do it with a randomizer. Well, it's free. The game doesn't cost anything to download. You just have to install it on your... I think it's only on PC for now, since it's a custom-built game. But you can jump right in and try it at any time. And there's randomizer features built in, depending on which content creator you're watching. Like, the game will let you randomize spawns and randomize the trainer Pokemon lineups just within the game. You don't need external mods to do that. But yeah, the game is free. If you just actually don't Google it, because there's some sites popping up that are trying to claim they're official, and they're not legit. Let me see if I can find a link to the Discord. The best way to get the game and get the correct version is to join the Infinite Fusion Discord and download it through their actual channel, because I think that's the only way to get the most recent version right away whenever it comes out. Let me go see if they just have it linked there. You don't need to actually do anything in the Discord, but if you join it, you can get all of the information and stuff that's released for it whenever they update it. Give me a second to look in here. Oh, you might be able to download this on mobile. But there is a link to a GitHub site which has the official release. I'll put that in the chat, but if you want to be able to get the up-to-date stuff and keep an eye on the release, I recommend joining their Discord. But for now, like Capri Sun, if you're interested in picking the game up, this is the installer link from their Discord. I'm pulling it straight out of there. And I believe the installer is set to automatically update whenever there's a new release. I don't remember. I just kind of tend to run the installer manually since I don't play the game constantly anymore. But whenever there's an update, the installer is set to pull down the latest files, the sprites that have been added, and everything else, which is pretty handy. You don't have to do it through like an external source, which is handy. Preson asked, it updates from inside the app. Yeah, that's something fairly new. When I first started playing it, they had a separate update bat file that you would use, but now that there's an actual installer launcher, I think it does it automatically after a release comes out. You have to see, since it's been a while, I don't remember. But either way, updating it's pretty easy. There's a update bat file in the directory when it installs too. Okay, I think that will work for now. All right, so let me explain this format here and how this works. What we're going to do is we're going to start with some faces that are supposed to be representative of the race that we're dealing with here. And again, there's 11 of them. I've more or less finished one that maybe I could show off later if you folks are curious, but there's 11 of them, so we have 10 left. I want to try and chip away at this while I'm here on stream because I need the finished pieces to put into this lore document. And so up here, we're going to draw some just random character faces that feature some of the physical attributes and traits from the respective race. And then underneath, down here, we're going to have 2 models that are probably going to be slight pose variations. They're not going to be dramatically different because we're not going for like a dynamic pose thing here. But these models down here are for outfits. Probably a mix of casual wear and armor, like combat armor. Like maybe one model will have one type and the other will have the other, and we'll switch. So the point is to put together some examples of physical attributes on the top and then the outfits on the bottom. What I've done is I've basically just left the faces undefined, like no hair, just like an empty circle for the face, and then focused on the outfit. And maybe I will add more later, but for now I want one male, one female, and then anything else that's relevant to the concept sheet will go here as like a miscellaneous. Like some of them have certain types of distinguishing features on their eyes. Some of them have other things that are kind of specific. So that's kind of a catch-all here. And the whole point of this is, again, is to be a reference, like a character or species, I guess, reference for, again, like a future lore document. So that's our goal here, and we'll see how far we get. Pre-Sun says, why Iron Man and not female? That's actually a pretty clever pun. I'm sure someone has thought of that at some point. You should write into Marvel. Have them add it to the extended lore. I'm going to scale these heads up a little bit. They don't need to be that small. It's probably better. What I'd like to do when I get more of this information together down the road is partner with some other artists that I know that can help me realize some of these concepts. So like we have a sketch concept document that gives some basic ideas, and then kind of like a more realized, more rendered version of fully fleshed out characters. So this is the blueprint, and then using that blueprint be able to again realize some fully defined characters that kind of go with it. Peace on. That's like Wazi. I don't know if this would necessarily be in her lane. Oh, I got you, autocorrect. But I definitely consider asking her. She's already working for me on something, so if I asked her about something like this, she would drive over to my house and stab me. But some other folks I know and some artist connections I made as like a potential extended commission project is something I'm looking at too. But I want to have the kind of groundwork and blueprint down so I can be able to say, hey, here's what we're operating with. Here's an information document that explains the setup. Here are examples of characteristics of these, and then use that to inform what I commission instead of just saying, hey, draw me some characters, So that's kind of the goal, and we'll see. Pre-Sun says, or peel her chicken nuggets in front of you. Yeah, I got some opinions on that. Don't get me started. Food crimes. Alright, let's drop our brush size down a little. Yeah, 8. Drop you down transparency wise. Bruce says, no, I remember cheese milk while I'm eating cereal. Oh, that's unfortunate. At least you haven't tried it. Well, unless you tried to make it yourself. When I was at Extra Life, I got to drink a shot of cheese milk. And believe it or not, probably not hard to believe, the cheese milk was worse than the Atomic Habanero gummy bear that we ate before that. I would have eaten a whole one of those before I ever ate cheese milk again. So if that doesn't speak volumes for the quantity, or quality rather, I don't know what does. All of us had to do it. It was rough. Well, it was rough for everyone except Wazzy. Alright, so this first one... Whoop. Lost my pen. Make sure we're staying on the right line. So this first one, let's see. I'm quite decided if this is going to be a male or female character. I keep hitting my right click by accident, which is causing my color sampler to sample a canvas. We don't want that. Could be that my tablet sensitivity is acting up too. Need to watch that. While I'm sketching out the details here, I want to mention something that I think I've talked about on Salt Table Sessions a while ago. It was not on a drawing stream, I don't think. You folks can correct me if I'm misremembering, but we talked about artists' pet peeves, like things that are common in art that are just kind of irksome, not problematic per se, but just something that people are slightly bothered by. And I remember talking about this at some point, and it was something I didn't really pay attention to until someone pointed it out, and then I noticed it everywhere, and now it bothers me. And I feel kind of bad because it's really common. But I don't know what the term for it is. I just kind of call it the mouth vanishing point line. And that's when, usually in manga and anime styles is where you see it. But when someone draws a mouth like this is not a terribly good example because my lines are a little bit thick. But they basically have like a little break in the mouth line. Something I didn't really notice until someone pointed it out, and then I noticed it on everything. A lot of people do that. I don't like that. It bothers me now. It's just a stylistic choice, and it's not really breaking to the art. But I really want to know who started that. I'm going to assume it had to be somewhere in manga a while back. But it's so common, like any type of anime or manga type design usually has that. So it's like, whatever, but I don't do that on mine. It's just a stylistic choice, but kind of a a common trope that I'm not a huge fan of. And someone I know I was talking to about this, maybe it was Pups, but it's interesting whenever art evolves, a medium evolves, and stuff like that becomes common. Who knows? Maybe the next one will be like a nose break, like that, which would be pretty jarring. Actually, I don't think people would do that, but that is what happens when it comes to an art medium and style. Reason says no, don't give them ideas. Another thing, actually, this, what we're talking about, like drawing quirks and styles. This is something else that I notice, and I don't hate it, but it's not something I would do personally. And I was reminded of this recently with Hazbin Hotel, because I notice VivziePop's style does this, but it's kind of like the reverse. So let me try and explain. One thing I don't really like, and it's really common in manga and anime specifically, is when you have like transparent hair. And so what I mean by that is, let's say this is not the hairstyle I'm going to use, but let's say we had hairstyle look kind of like this. And just doing like a really rough job here. I'm going to erase in a sec. But it's really common, not in every style, not everyone does this, but a lot of people do, again, where you can see like the eye details or the eyebrows or whatever underneath the hair. And again, it's not a problem or anything. I just don't really like it, and I used to draw that way. So you folks will see, again, I'm not a pro by any means, but when I draw stuff, again, I gotta make sure I erase what I'm doing. If something is hidden, then you can't see it underneath. Just because, not because it's more realistic, just because I think it's less visually distracting. Which I think if you're animating, if you're doing animation, I could see why you would do that, because you want to be able to convey the expressions without having them obscured. But one thing I noticed, okay, let me get rid of all this. Hey, Lava King, what's up? I see you in the chat. Welcome. Talking about Hazbin Hotel, the thing that I've noticed that Vivzie does is she hides the hair behind the eyes. So it's like the reverse. And I can't draw like a really faithful representation, but like Charlie is a really good example. She has really large eyes. This is going to be a really bad example of Charlie. But like her hair has that kind of flip thing that goes like this, but then it disappears behind her eye, so that the eyes are on the basically on top of her hair, and like over here is like the rest of it. And that is kind of a unique choice that I haven't seen very commonly. It's like the reverse, but I think it keeps so you can see the character's expression at all times, and it seems to fit really well. I just kind of surprisingly have not seen that before. It's kind of a distinct style. Lava King says, I hate pulled pork. Really? I think pulled pork is great. I make pulled pork all the time in a slow cooker. What don't you like about pulled pork, Lava King? Enlighten us. Is it the texture or is it the taste? Because like a good smoky infused pulled pork, like a Kahlua pork, if you know Hawaiian food, slow simmered, is delicious. Lava King says, because after Monday I will never trust it again. Oh, did you get food poisoning? Yeah, I keep forgetting today's Tuesday. I'm used to streaming Wednesdays, so I'm like a day off. Something happened on Monday to ruin pulled pork forever for Lava King, it sounds like. Pre-Sun says, I didn't eat a whole lot of pork growing up because the humans who raised me are Jewish. Ah, understandable. Faith-based dietary restrictions. Lava King says I was expunging my guts out from 2 a.m. to 11 a.m. on Monday. Oh, ooh, ooh. Did you get food poisoning then? Also, pulled pork is too goopy. Huh. It shouldn't be. The good pulled pork should be moist and soft, but not like soupy. Kahlua pork's a little bit different because it's made to be simmered in a lot of liquids, so it is more liquidy. But like regular smoked pulled pork is just soft meat that shreds easily. It shouldn't be like slimy or whatever. So I don't know where you got it from, but it sounds like you got some bad pulled pork. Capri Sun's right. It could have been undercooked. It could have been contaminated. Love King says, no, Rock, I had to go to prom, so I put my finger in my mouth at 2 a.m. for the dance. Huh. I'm a little bit confused as to the order of events here. Was that as a result of afterwards, or are you saying that you put your finger in your mouth at some point at 2 a.m.? Oh, gotcha. Lava King, you know, text chats aren't good for conveying sarcasm. Come on. I have to take everything you say literally because I can't tell just from the intonations. But so you think it was something food related, but your folks think it wasn't the pork itself. What else did you eat? I guess that's possible. Like, was it a barbecue joint? Other types of barbecue things? What else was it? Really, the thing that's kind of nebulous about food poisoning, again, speaking as someone who worked in a kitchen, you can get it from anything. It could be undercooked food. It could be mishandled food. You know, like, it could be perfectly cooked and prepared and everything, but if someone doesn't wash their hands properly, then you could still get sick, even if there's nothing physically wrong with the food if it's contaminated. Yeah, that's true, Capri Sun. Believe me, I know. We had to be super anal about all of our handling and hand washing and stuff when we worked in the kitchen. And I still carry those habits with me today. I wash my hands constantly when I'm in the kitchen. Ask anybody who's ever had me cook for them. Okay, I think this is gonna be a dude. Some of the races here are more prone to kind of more of an androgynous look, which is more apparent in the outfits than just the physical characteristics. But we'll have this one be a dude, and the next one will be a lady to contrast some of the elements. I haven't done a lot, just in case anyone's asking out of curiosity, for this fictional world or universe I'm working on. I haven't thought a lot about interpreting gender identity and stuff. It's going to kind of be defined as I flesh out the lore for each of the races. So if anybody asks me about stuff like, you know, are there going to be non-binary people or gender fluid people, I don't know, because it's not really something I'm an expert on to begin with. So I kind of feel like trying to incorporate that into a fictional world without knowing what I'm talking about is only going to get me in trouble. But I do want to allow for some flexibility in the design for how these characters look, as opposed to, you know, rigid gender stereotypes and stuff like that, since I don't think that's as fun. But out of fairness, in case anyone was wondering, that's something I'm looking at, but I haven't quite decided how I'm going to tackle it yet, because you have to be careful nowadays, otherwise you're getting in a lot of trouble. And I'd rather not like to get in a lot of trouble. On the topic of food poisoning, Lava King says it's weird because we had family over and everyone ate a bit of everything. So there's no way to tell what it was because it was only me and my parents who got sick, not my brothers or niece. Interesting. But Lava King says I'll use Monday as an excuse from eating pulled pork. That's fair. If nothing else, the experience is going to make you a bit more averse to pulled pork in general because you'll remember puking your guts out for like 9 hours. You just have to take my word for it when I say I have a really good Kahlua pork recipe that I use all the time. Lava King says, no, I just hate pulled pork, and now I have a reason to hate it. I guess. It's not an invalid reason. Okay, so here's face number 1. This is the level of detail we're going to get into here for these sketch concepts. They're not going to be fully inked and colored and rendered. This is more to just get some ideas down sketch-wise because this is how the concept piece is going to be incorporated. And that's mostly to make it a little more efficient for me to get through a lot of these. Is again, I have to do 10 sheets like this. And I want to get through it without spending a lot of time on the details. So we're going to move on to the next one here. This particular race is a big fan of a type of makeup that lines the eyes, like an eyeliner type thing. And that is something that you see on all the genders. It was kind of inspired by like Egyptian eye makeup for this particular race. Now let's see. Put a little more angle to the jawline on this one. That individual face shapes I'm not too worried about. Again, this is just concept design ideas. The hair and other attributes like the outfits are going to be more kind of distinct on these, I think. Breezeland says, I wonder if when they fix my nose in April, if it'll change the way sounds I make with my mouth and how they sound, for lack of a better word. It's possible, depending on how invasive the procedure is. Because I know you talked before about how it's correcting something in your sinuses, I think it was. So I don't know. I'm not a respiratory doctor or an expert by any means, but it might. I guess we'll have to see if it affects your beatboxing. Hey, Sourlad's here. Sourlad says, nah, I'd win. How you doing, Sourlad? Welcome to the stream. Hope you're having a decent Tuesday. I think it might be slightly off center. Just needs to be close. If I was doing this for an actual project, like a final render, I'd want it to be very exact and not off center. But for sketch concepts, it's okay. Well, that says doing great, and you? Oh, I can't really complain. Pretty standard day at work. I was on the phone a lot today. But we are chipping away at a very large project I'm working on. I was telling the stream earlier how these concepts are going to be used as like a lore document for a big writing project that I'm working on that I have let sit for a while, and I want to try and realize it more, so I'm going to be working on it off and on stream. I've been doing a lot of writing off stream, and some drawing. I did one of these off stream, but I figured since all of you are here, we can talk about it. This will force me to get more work done. Okay, for this one, we're gonna put an accessory on this one. This particular race is a big fan, accessory-wise, of these metal circlets that cover those forehead marks of theirs. The forehead marks are important. It's like a genetic lineage thing that every person in this race has. But sometimes, as a fashion or a style choice, they have these circlets that cover the marks. Let's see, maybe go long hair for this one. I was thinking maybe do on the other side so we're not exactly mirroring the one we just did, or copying, pasting the one we just did. Something like this. There, that's better. And maybe shoulder length hair or something down here. It's a little bit strange. Let's try to put kind of like a fringe on the hair. I'll leave it like that for now. Probably should have done this before I copied and mirrored these over, but that's okay. All right, let's take a look. Let's compare. Not a bad contrast. I'm trying to think of some additional design elements I'd put in a third one for now. But what we could do, in the interest of moving on, let me call this number 2. We can move on to the actual full body outfits. I think that will be good, because I can always come back to these and add stuff to them later, but I want to try and get as much progress done as possible as we move through each one. Alright, let's move left to right again. This one will be the male model. Another thing I want to do, which is why I sketch these out in kind of like a really rough primary as a reference, is I can play around with the builds too. Like this first one, it's kind of a bulkier dude. But maybe if we can slim the proportions down, we'll have this one be a little bit more skinny. In fact, since I'm going to be drawing the details here, I don't need to do this. I just need to make sure the build is a little bit different. And I think, I'm trying to think back to what we've done here on stream. My memory's not super great since we've done so many of these drawing studies. But I've definitely drawn characters from this particular race before on stream. I just can't remember the last time we did it. But this is the race that really likes long, obscuring, kind of draping clothing like capes. Capes, cloaks, kind of longer, more covering outfits compared to some of the other ones, which are a little bit less covering. So to that end, I think I want to do kind of like a shoulder cape here. That goes down maybe not quite all the way to the ground. So this one, again, paying attention to the build. Something like this. And we can keep the hand here. Let's see. Trying to figure out where the part that goes around here, maybe something like that. And this is going to be more casual, where the female model on the right is going to be more armor. Like I said, when we were defining the rules at the top of the stream for these character models down here, I want to do one sort of basic clothing, casual wear, and one more armor based, since a lot of the design elements are going to be a little bit different depending on if it's meant for getting in a fight versus just out and about regular wear. Pisan says, sorry, had to leave for a minute. I'm back now. Well, no worries. All you miss is me just kind of rambling a little bit about some ideas I have for each of the character models here. I don't know if you heard me say it, but this first one is going to be regular clothing, and the second one is going to be armor. That's pretty much all I was really talking about. Pisan says, I was listening to your ramble about your ideas. I'm listening to you ramble about your ideas. Oh, that's good. I do appreciate that. I will say, I don't know if I've mentioned this on stream, since I don't always work on this particular project when I'm drawing. Sometimes it's other things and whatnot. But I've never publicly talked about this particular project of mine ever. I've been doing content on the internet for a really long time, and I've never talked to anybody about any specifics with this project, be it characters or anything with the lore or whatnot. I've never talked about it. And I've been working on this project for, I'd say, about 25 years, off and on. A good stretch when I was younger, I worked on it a lot more. But this project has been in development for a long time. Probably more than that, closer to 30, I would say. Again, I'm old. But now that I'm part of kind of more public content creation, and I've been able to make some connections, I want to actually do more to bring this project to life. So if I get struck by lightning a year from now, at least I'll have defined something and made it tangible, and it'll probably live on the internet forever. Let's see, what do I want to do for the lower body? Do something that's kind of like this in the lower section. This dude's gonna have pants, longer, more loose fitting pants, not like hammer pants, but maybe close. Pisan says, most people survive getting struck by lightning. One guy got struck by lightning 3 times in one 5-minute CCTV video. It is possible, yeah. I don't know if I'd be that lucky. I do know that if you get struck by lightning and survive, you get a wicked tattoo. If you ever see not tattoo, but you get a wicked scar that looks like a tattoo. Like, you ever look up Google Images for lightning scars? Because of the way the current goes through your body and your skin, the scar looks like a big, like, anime tattoo. It's wild. Like, the patterns it creates are crazy, which is, I guess, kind of a cool. If you have to get struck by lightning, a souvenir that you survived it is a badass looking tattoo. Alright, these are kind of like just casual wear pants. I suck at drawing pants. I'm much better at doing armor. But maybe these would have kind of like a stitched seam on them too for texture. I guess we're going symmetrical, it'll be something like this. Prieston says they're fractal patterns left by lightning. It looks like cool scars. Yeah, it's wild. Like, considering some people get deliberate tattoos that have the same patterning, it's pretty crazy. I see we got a hydrate from Sour Lad. And a stretch and save reminder from Capri Sun. A good idea. Ugh. Both good ideas. And for the shoes, these are kind of like armored street shoes. Not armored, but they're reinforced street shoes. Maybe they cut off about there. This is not meant to be one solid piece. This is like a leg, like an upper ankle covering thing that's sort of worn over the shoes, I guess it would be. Preson says you and Wazzy are live, as well as also known ASBB. Why is everyone going live right now? I don't know exactly. Tuesday is Wazzy's regular day to stream. I know that. I'm streaming today because I got something that I got to do tomorrow for after work, so I can't stream on Wednesdays like I normally would. So that's why I'm here tonight. So we'll be back on Thursday for more Dyson Sphere. So slightly different schedule this week, and then Sunday. Sunday's a big one. Sunday is the release party for Titanium Forest, which should be pretty fun. I'm looking forward to showing off the new music album video with you folks. The compilation video, rather, and you can see some of the art that I made for it, which we've shown off a bit on stream if you've been to a couple of the drawing streams, but by and large, you folks haven't seen the majority of the art that's featured in that video. And you haven't seen the cover art that I got commissioned. That artist said she is going to join me on stream to talk about the art development process. So that will be Sunday, this coming Sunday at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 9:30 EST. We also did a behind the scenes video, so you can see the active drawing process and a bunch of the concept work that was part of the commission, which I haven't done that for a project so far, but the artists I work with had that stuff handy, so I included it and edited a separate video that's going to be shown off after the compilation. Breezon says we get to ask her questions. Yep, absolutely. This is not an artist you folks have seen on stream. She's someone I met through the Prince, actually. And she's also a streamer. I've rated her a few times. Her name is Mycelia Corpus. And she is a very talented artist and did a really good job on the art. Priest asked Prince Lemon. Yep, one of his mutuals that I met. Prince isn't doing any content right now. I think he's going to school, so he's kind of on a break. I've not talked to that fellow recently. The only other beatboxing VTuber I know. So hopefully all of his studies and stuff are going well. All right. Let's see. For this arm, I think we'll do sort of like a short sleeve. This is a short sleeve garment. But we'll just have the arm over here kind of off to the side. Maybe we'll do kind of like a roughly defined arm covering. Some of these characters in the poses just kind of show off some of the design elements, might have weapons, but not this one. This is just a regular casual wear dude. So we'll put this arm here, just keep it out of focus. And I might do some slight variations on the pose like I mentioned earlier. We'll see. The point is not to have the focus be on whatever the character poses look like. It's just a more neutral way to show a lot of the outfits. The whole point of this is the outfits. But we'll see. Like I might flip some of these around, have them facing the other direction, just to mix it up. All right. I think this one is good to go. Let's take a look. Hide the primary for a bit. Let me put some runic decoration writing on here. Another thing I had to do, this isn't something I think we've really talked about or I've shown off in any degree, but because I had to come up with 11 unique races with their own specific defining physical attributes, their own fashion and clothing and armor styles, I also had to come up with their own writing, which not like a completely fleshed out written language, but like the specific writing systems I had to come up with for each one, which was kind of interesting. So like this particular group has like a type of runic writing. This is just an example of what the shapes look like. This isn't any actual words. I didn't create the fully like written letters and language out. That would take forever. But it'd be kind of runic characters that look like this, and others are kind of more syllabic. They don't look like characters. It was an interesting thing to work on since I'm such a big fan of language, but 11 different writing systems was difficult. Like a good example, this will probably show up on one of the future ones we do, but one race's writing looks like actual blocks. So let's see, like a pattern you'd see on something like clothing might look like this. Very square or rectangular. Something like that. Or another one which looks more angular and sharp, so unlike the one we just saw, I haven't done a lot of this in a while. I have to go back and look at my references. But the writing might look something like that, so very sharp, a lot of intersecting lines. All right, let's go ahead and save this. And we'll move on to the next one. So this one we want to be more armor based, which will be interesting. Maybe since this first one had more of like a flowing cape type garment, this one maybe we have kind of more, not suit of armor per se, because this particular race doesn't really do suits of armor, but their protective gear covers a lot of the body like it would armor, so we can kind of explore that idea a little bit. Maybe we do something like this for the chest plate. Like I talked about on some of the previous drawing streams, going through this exercise and working on the concept stuff for this project is also a good opportunity for me to remember some of the outfit designs I've done. Like I think I mentioned before a long time ago that I have hundreds of drawings on paper because I used to be a pencil and paper artist primarily. And they're all like random character concepts. Some of them are for the stories I've actually written. Others are just random ideas I had. And a couple times on stream, we've scanned those in and I've inked them as part of the drawing stream. So that's where all the information comes from. And if I were to try and scan and render out all of those, it would be so much. But there are some characters that are part of the stories that I'm going to want to get actually commissioned, so I will have to scan those in if I end up handing the work off to another artist. One sec. Alright, think about how we're going to do the body piece of the armor. One thing design-wise for this particular race, their armor tends to resemble bone. Like layers of bone is kind of what the armor's modeled after. It's not made of bone, but that's what it looks like. So the coloring is very kind of like pale white and dull as opposed to bright and metallic. And so trying to adapt that into armor styles has been an interesting challenge. Because there are some other ones who look like kind of more futuristic plate mail type armor, and some that are like a mix of like long garments and armor, and some that are like really cut off and asymmetrical. Yeah, I think this one's definitely going to be more symmetrical. I'm not exactly sure what I want to do with the arms, though. I'll think about that. I could do like a longer sleeve type thing that has armored bits protecting it. Like that, which is pretty common wear. In fact, I think I do want to do that. I just want to think about how to make the armor pieces distinct. And for the lower body, let me think about that too. It seems like it's been a long time since I've drawn a character from this particular race. And I was just talking about this one the other day. What I've done, this isn't something you folks can actively see, but one thing I've done in the lore document that all this stuff is going to go into is I've written up kind of a detailed synopsis and explanation of what the traditional garments and clothing styles and armor styles of the different races are supposed to look like. And so these concept drawings are supposed to be visual guides that go along with the narrative. So if someone was reading it and wanted to say, well, what does the author mean by, X type of outfit? And here's an example. You see the way the character is designed and say, oh, here are the elements that are being talked about in this particular lore document. Maybe what we can do sort of more loose fitting, heavy type pants, kind of like combat fatigues, and then have the armor be a little bit more reinforced on the legs, unlike this other one, which is more like boots. Kind of It's kind of a challenge because if you're thinking about functional armor, you wouldn't want to have your lower body be totally unprotected. Starlight says, I like it. It has a bug theme. Yeah, I gotta be a little bit careful because there's another race that is very like bug theme centric in their attire and their armor, more so than this one. But it would also come down to the coloring. So like the armor color for this particular race would not look really that bug-like because again, the metal parts are supposed to be like bone. But it's hard to tell because I'm just sketching it. But that's something I need to be a little bit aware of so that I'm not overlapping my concepts, which is part of the practice. But you're right, it is kind of shell-like. I just need to be a little bit careful about how much like just for example, to kind of explain what I'm talking about, all these parts on the upper body, so like here, 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 and here, where it looks like it's plated, would be probably different shades of like a pale white, maybe like a pale cream white color, and dull in texture, not shiny. So it'd be very like matte and look kind of weathered, like plates of bone, instead of like really shiny and glossy, like an insect shell. And there are some elements. Actually, there's some elements that definitely would be more unique to that other race. I'm not going to draw that one today. We'll do one that's a little bit more different and distinct after this, just to have some variation. Starlight asks, so the lower armor going to be pants or layered like the top, or layered sideways? That's what I was talking about earlier. I have an idea, and I think it'll work out fine. Again, we're not too worried about grounding in realism so much, just getting ideas together. Like my concern was that the lower body just being regular pants would be kind of weird, since the upper torso and shoulders are armored, but not like the legs. But I wanted to do more heavily armored things down here in this section. That is not the armor, that's just this brackets. So like more heavy armored greaves on the legs, from the knee past the calf to the ankle would be like some more armored boots, similar to the way the upper body is protected. But I was trying to think about what would make sense for the legs. Because we could do something, just for example, I know I've done this before. I've done something where, you know, there's like armor protecting the thighs, the quads. And there is definitely going to be a race that has that more commonly. One of them, it looks like, again, almost medieval armor, but more futuristic. And you would see like very little uncovered, because most of it is like covered by metal plating. But for this one, I think canonically the fabric of the pants would be a bit heavier, so not like a real thin, loose fabric. It'd be kind of more heavier, again, like a military fatigue type of material. And then we go for, yeah, kind of like shin guards or greaves are probably the most accurate type of armor. Starlight says strong leather. If you're talking about the pants, not necessarily leather. Probably more like a thick synthetic fabric. Maybe something like a Kevlar, like something flexible or lightweight, more similar to Kevlar, that can allow for movement. Because if it was really like hard and stiff, then you couldn't move quickly, right? You wouldn't be very agile. We can give this lady a weapon. This particular race has a very unique type of melee weapon. It's a type of sword. Let's make sure we got the cuffs accurately here. I've always thought the idea of trying to blend like older styles of weapons with different technology ideas and different concepts was full of possibilities when it came to defining like how fictional world works. So like some of these races have like an emphasis on firearms, like things that are projectile based. Maybe they're like energy weapons. And some of them have more like futuristic adaptations of older styles of weapons. Like it might be a sword, but it's a sword that uses technology or energy in conjunction with just like a regular sword. And this particular race doesn't do that. They just still use swords as a primary type of fighting means for melee. Let's see, I haven't done one of these in a while. And the unique property of the swords is that I need to fix the shape a little bit. They're these long, sort of curved swords. Kind of like a scimitar, but they don't always curve one direction. And there's like different fighting styles and disciplines that use these particular type of sword weapon. All right, now let's look at the protective gear on the legs. I do like Sarulad's idea when it came to having like reinforced things protecting the shins. So maybe do something like this, and basically it's like a double layer where there's a protective part on the front facing for potential attacks. And then it's just like a solid metal piece. It's actually pretty accurate now that I think about it. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. It's very symmetrical. A lot of the outfits for this particular race tend to be focused on symmetry. Not all of them. Like the male model with the cape. It's more like a half shoulder cape. But this one is going to be pretty symmetrical. Maybe a little bit too wide. That's pretty functional. And then for the shoes, these would be a bit more like reinforced armored shoes or like boots compared to the one over here. And shoe styles are kind of weird. I don't really have a lot of consistent themes for the shoes and footwear. I kind of just experiment with some ideas that are following like the core principles of the rest of the race and try to be consistent. Maybe we dial that in a little bit. All right. Let's do kind of a sweep of the details and see what we've come up with. Xylat asks, is that a bird skull on the feet? No, it's not a bird skull, but it's meant to be sort of like this sharpened part here that tapers to a point. So it kind of does look like a bird skull, but if you think about it, let me try and do a side render here. If this is the foot, and the ankle's up here, like these would probably be clasped together and, as opposed to tied, like there's no laces, right? So this is actually covering the top of the foot and the toes. It's like a toe guard, like a metal plating thing on here that probably has to be glued to the top or fastened as opposed to snapped on, and then there's sections underneath that actually move, so they're flexible. I really didn't render this too differently, but it's kind of like a protective covering on the top, and then this part right here is the under part. I don't know if that was a really good explanation. Probably not, but it wasn't intended to have like a bird type theme to it. But it does kind of look like it a little bit. Like I said, footwear designs are not really my specialty. Some of them tend to look kind of strange, but I imagine it would be an interesting thing to try and reproduce for like a cosplay thing. You probably have to take like a sneaker type of design and then attach a lot of like plating around it to duplicate the effect that I'm going for here. But I think that'd be an interesting experiment. All right, let's zoom out and take a look here. Go ahead and save our progress. And we'll hide the primary so the sketch shows up a little bit easier. So kind of a contrast. Again, I'll start with the faces up top. I would assume, just rough estimates, these are probably adults, young adults. There's not really a lot of like older age distinguishing features on the faces. Not really relevant. Doesn't matter. I'm gonna probably try and experiment with drawing a range of ages for these characters as in the examples for the faces, just to kind of practice. But the first one, the first model here, and I'll put a gender marker here in case anyone's curious. Again, it doesn't really matter, but the first one, kind of short hair, slicked back hair a little bit, some locks falling over the face. You can see the runic mark on the forehead, which is something that everyone in this race has. And ear accessories, both of them have these kind of long charm-like earrings. And then the female one, longer hair, at least shoulder length. This is her hair down here. But she's wearing a circlet type of piece of headgear accessory that covers that mark on her forehead. And talk a little bit about coloring, palette assignment, and whatnot. This particular race likes dark colors that goes with the more obscuring, longer flowing garments. So color paletting for outfits, be it armor or regular clothing, would be kind of a mix of dark purples, blacks, blues, neutral shades like maybe a dark gray or silver as an accent. But the outfits are not really flashy and bright. They tend to be a bit more kind of dark and muted. And a couple factors lore-wise that I could get into later if people are that curious as to why that is. But each race has their own kind of preferred color palette. Some are similar and some are much more distinct as far as colors of outfits. And for physical attributes, things like hair color and eye color and skin color, in fact, are also things that are all captured in the description of lore. So like for this particular race, their skin tends to be kind of lighter and pale, and their hair and eye color tends to be very dark to match their clothes. So like hair color, dark purple, black, dark blue sometimes, but nothing really bright, like brightly colored shades, like no bright greens, no bright blues or yellows or reds. And eye colors vary from kind of a muted dark purple to yellow. And other shades like green, blue, red, from what I'm remembering, are not common for eye color. Sarlacc says, less sunlight. That's true. In fact, that's the exact reason. The world that this race evolved on had longer day cycle or night cycles than day. And so for a long part of the evolutional development, most of the world was covered in darkness. And as a result, as the life forms evolved into more humanoid type shapes, again, this is just a snippet of the lore to explain. They kept the kind of lighter skin color because they were less exposed to sunlight. Not so much nocturnal, it's just the day cycle was shorter than the night until the planet's overall climate cycle normalized much later after millions of years. So in modern day, when like the stories take place, it's a bit more balanced, but I think the way I wrote this, because they're farther away from the sun, their night cycle is longer than most, but it's more like 2/3, 1/3 instead of 3/4, 1/4, with the 1/4 being day. Sarlacc says, just like the human place that's eternal night for like 9 months. Isn't there a spot in Alaska that's like that? Like in the winter, in the shortest daylight cycle, it gets dark at, like 2 in the afternoon or something. Similar idea, though. Basically, where our night cycle would be from like 9 o'clock at night to, on not daylight savings, like 6. This particular world would be like, I mean, more like 8 to 6. It'd be more like 5 to 6, like 2 or 3 hours longer of a night cycle. But back in the earlier stages of the planet's development, it would have been like 4 hours of day, and then the other 20 are night. Sarlacc says there's also one that's eternal sunset, sunrise. That's at a really specific point on the planet. I know what you're talking about, I just don't remember where. But yeah, you have correctly guessed the lore snippet that affects not only some of the physical attributes of this particular race, but also their outfits. And the thing that I've written, again, this is just little bits of lore. If you folks don't want to hear me go into super long detail, then I won't. But for this particular world, even though the day to night cycle is more balanced towards night, the day cycles are more intense. So when the sun is out, it tends to be stronger. So there's a lot of desert climate along the different biomes and whatnot on the planet. And so a lot of the attire is meant to be worn in higher heat or higher concentrations of sunlight. So when it is daytime, things like these longer covering garments or these capes or cloaks are meant to absorb a lot of that light so people don't get burned. Because again, their skin is very sensitive to light. So their clothing and armor and everything is based around protecting against the sun when it's out. And I kind of incorporated that into the design. So like compared to one of the other races, which I don't think we're going to look at today, but they have a more warm climate in general, but it's not because of the like harsh sunlight or anything. It's just warmer, higher temperature. So their outfits tend to be less covering. More cut off short sleeve or sleeveless type of garments, more like skirts and shorts types outfits because it's warmer in general on that planet. And so the armor and fashion and clothing style revolves around that. And so trying to design 11 unique types of styles was a big challenge, and I'm still working on it and trying to do this regularly so that I get more practice. But that's one of the big challenges to writing for a project this big. And you folks get to see little snippets of that when we do these drawing streams. So let's move on from this one. I was thinking about some other miscellaneous things to put in here. Like there's an insignia that represents the different races. I don't have it right now, but when I eventually put this document together, I'm going to put that in there. It's like not like a flag so much, but it's an emblem that represents the different races. Each one has their own, so there's 11. And it's kind of indicative of their writing system or the different lore elements that establish what they're about. And this one looks kind of like a runic seal. Some of them look like that. Others look more like regular writing text. Others are more pictograph-like. Looks like a symbol versus just a writing character. Style that says acrobatic style versus close combat style. Yep, there's a couple other key lore points that determine like how warriors within the different races fight. That's a whole nother discussion. Like I could probably do a 5-hour stream explaining the construction of this entire universe and all of the races and the specifics. There's a lot, and that's what's captured in the lore document. And these illustration pieces, these concept sheets, go along with that to visually explain what's being written in the actual text. So let's see. Let me think of which one I want to do next. Let's put the primary back. I want to at least get this one started. I don't think we'll necessarily finish it today, but I do want to start another one, and then I'll keep working on this offline as well. It's not solely dedicated to streams, but I did want to work on this on stream today to give myself some time to make progress. So for this one, we'll put the female model over here on the left. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to alternate every time, but we'll just switch it up. Maybe go for more round eyes for this one instead of the more narrow lined eyes of the last one. Eye shape is not necessarily something that's race specific. Some of the details around the eyes is a little bit, but for the most part, it's not like certain ones have larger eyes, certain ones have smaller eyes. Not That's not really so much something I really wrote into the lore. Like some of the makeup or decoration stylings around the eyes are more unique. Like that last one I mentioned before, that all the genders have like an affinity for doing like eyeliner type of decoration, similar to kind of Egyptian eye makeup. But this one, I'm trying to think of which race I want to do next. I think we'll do this one. This is the water one. And for hair, what would be a good hairstyle here? We did short, long. We could do medium. Is that Chris Pratt? That's the second time I've seen you post that in the chat, Sarla. Is that who that is? Look really closely because you're on my small monitor. Alright, I'm just thinking about some potential hairstyles. There is one hairstyle I specifically want to avoid, otherwise I'm going to get sued. Fortunately, I don't really know how to draw that character super well, so I don't think that'll be an issue. Let's go shorter. I've defaulted to this type of hairstyle a lot, so I need to be a little bit careful. Make it a bit more kind of unruly and chaotic. Alright. Sarlat says peasant bowl cut. I refuse to put a bowl cut on one of my characters, Sarlat. How dare you? First, I thought you said pleasant bowl cut. I had to look at the chat again. Which, there is, of course, no such thing as a pleasant bowl cut. It is always a punishment inflicted on those who have to wear it. I have never had a bowl cut, but I had some peers way, way back who had a similar type of haircut, and I think it scarred them. Okay. A couple things to note for this particular race. I mentioned this is the water-based one, which is accurate. It might be harder to see in sketch form, but a couple key features here. One, these things on the neck, these are gills. This particular race can breathe underwater. They are evolved from seafaring creatures, shark-like sea creatures, hence their kind of sharp teeth and gills, which is why I said when I was working on this one, I had to be sure I didn't accidentally draw Gargura, well-known Hololive VTuber. Because I don't want to get sued. Sarlad says, have you seen those low taper fade memes? No. Is that talking about hair? That has to be talking about hair, right? I have not. Why don't you put one in memes in the Discord? So, a couple more things. In addition to the gills and some somewhat sharp teeth, this particular race has unique pupils in their eyes, which is something I'm going to put in the miscellaneous, but I'll draw it here kind of blown up just so I can illustrate what I'm talking about. So if this is the eye, it's a very large anime eye, and here is the iris. Usually they tend to be blue, light colors, light blue, light green. The pupil, instead of looking like this, the pupil looks like this. It's an inverted crescent shape. And it's part of the evolutionary attributes unique to just this particular race. So none of the other ones of the 11 have a pupil that looks like this. It's a little more pronounced than what I've done here, but it looks like a U, an upside down crescent U. It's a little easier to see when this is rendered in color and inked, but that is what the pupils look like. I'm going to probably draw that over on the miscellaneous because it's an important part of the physiology. But for now, we'll leave it off. Call this layer 3. We're on 3 of 10. 11. 3 of 11. I'm going to need to get something to drink in a sec. Oh, did you post that in memes right now? Let me go look at that, Sour Lad. That used to be a really popular haircut in the 80s. The flat top. The Saitama one is kind of funny though. And I think that one on the bottom left is Koromaru from Persona 3. That's wacky. Did this become a thing recently? Ah, okay. I'm assuming the meme is one character from the series is cutting another character from the series' hair like that. Oh, a few days ago. Hot off the meme presses. Interesting. Well, thank you for sharing. If someone wants to draw them giving me a high taper fade haircut, I definitely wouldn't say no. I can never rock a hairstyle like that. Legitimately, I'm trying to hold on to the hair that I've got. Alright, they got an idea for this one. Let's go spiky for this boy. Maybe we didn't, when I mean spiky, I don't necessarily mean like cloud spiky, but maybe a bit shorter. And I want to do like maybe sort of reverse mullet, really long in the front because I want it to be obscuring this eye because I can. It's the 2000s again. And before someone says emo haircut, Japanese Visual K did it first. And better. So if you ever see me doing hairstyles like that, that's where the reference is coming from. I was much too old to really be part of the emo scene. I got to observe it though. Sarlat says, I'm growing my hair. It's shoulder length now. I have no idea what to do with it or let it grow more. Shoulder length, huh? Going for the moist critical. I will say, because I used to have really long hair during the pandemic. And then once the pandemic sort of ended, I cut it off and now my hair is short. It's a lot of maintenance, but if you maintain it and, you know, take care of it, as opposed to just letting it get like scraggly and out of control, you can do long hair well, but you got to take care of it, and it's a lot of work. I was getting kind of tired of taking care of it. My hair used to be past my shoulders, like down to my nips. Starlight also asks, have you seen played Undertale Yellow? I have not. I have not played any Undertale. It is on my list to check out eventually. Wouldn't be for content, though, because apparently playing that game gets you in a lot of trouble if people don't like what you do in the game. But I haven't played any of the Undertale or Deltarune stuff. I've never heard of Yellow. Is that a fan game, or is that an official release? The pupil's a little bit more difficult to see since the iris is smaller, but hopefully that comes across. And we have the gills. The gill channels, as they're called, I think what I wrote in the lore, it's they can be between 2 and 4. It's not a set amount. save this. Starlight says Yellow is like a fan game, but also really good. It's on par with the Toby Fox style of writing. I think even helped make an ending too. Ah, I see. Yeah, I've heard a lot about Undertale. I know little bits and pieces about what the game itself it's about. I know some of the characters that are known for the memes, like obviously Sans. But what sort of deterred me from getting into Undertale was the fandom. Easily, it was the fandom, which is not really fair to the product, but I've had that happen before where I want to get into something and the fandom just immediately repels me. And it's kind of like if you make content around Undertale, you're at the mercy of the fandom too. And if they don't like what they're doing, then they'll harass you, and it's like makes me not want to check out a property when the fandom's like that. Which is a lot of fandoms, to be fair. It's not just Undertale. That's why I stopped watching Steven Universe. And why I tend to be a little bit arm's length with Has Been Hotel Hell of a Boss fandom, because they're kind of crazy too. Silad says Deltarune's going to pop out chapter 3 and 4 together soon. Okay, so it's being done in installments. Some guys played it now. Everyone's shipping a character with Bob from Bob's Burgers, and it's funny, and I love it. They Bob in his burger. Now, see, that kind of stuff is harmless. Like goofy fan stuff like that, perfectly innocuous. It's fine. But when the fandom starts getting intensely passionate about stuff, and like the way the characters are represented or the way the perceived ships and relationships are, and people get really obsessive about it, that type of stuff really, really just turns me off when it comes to a property. But I don't know. I do want to check out Undertale at some point so I can play through it and experience it. I haven't been spoiled on a lot of the stuff. Some of the things that happen in the game I know about, but largely I haven't watched anyone play through it because I wanted to experience it at some point. Saralad says, I'm not really in the fandom. I think it calmed down a bit since the early years. Well, I imagine because there's not as much content out for it aside from the installments of what's being released. Back when the game was newer and everyone was talking about it, it was probably, yeah, like you said, a lot more crazy. But that was around when I was looking at getting into it, and I was like, eh. And everyone's saying, don't stream it, don't do a Let's Play series because people will just like hate mob your videos if they don't like what you're doing. They'll backseat you, and like, okay, so I don't want to do it for content. And then eventually it just became lower priority, which is no criticism of the original content, like the creator. It's just one of those things the internet can ruin. But I'm not a stranger to that. I'm used to having everything I like ruined on the internet. Starlight says it's a wonderful game. Undertale set a new era of fandom. I believe it. The 2010s were pretty good. It came out in the 2010s, right? The 2010s were a pretty good era for establishing really unique and niche fandoms, but also intensely passionate and somewhat scary fandoms. Read the Brony fandom. And as someone who's involved in that community for a bit in another life, I totally get it. And you folks will never find out what I contributed to that fandom. But to be fair, it wasn't all bad. I met some really cool people in that fandom. Some regular cool people on the internet that were pretty chill. Okay, I'm putting together some ideas for the outfit on the male model here. I'm not going to finish this, but this will be a good opportunity to at least get started. It's been a while since I've drawn this particular race, the water one. I'm going to have to probably pull up some references and make sure I'm not getting too off model. Sarlad says Jujutsu Kaisen set a whole new era of fandom. It's Jover for us. Hey, Capri-san, welcome back. We are working on another series of drawings before we start to get ready to wrap up for today. I think there's a lot of established fandoms now for a lot of big properties that get decently popular. And I don't think at their core fandoms are bad, but they tend to go too far and ruin things for a lot of people. Like I know Capri-san and I have talked about the VivziePop universe a lot. And it's a great property, but some of the fans can get a little bit crazy. And if I end up doing the video series I want to do for that, I'm just accepting the fact that I'm probably going to attract some weirdos, but that's okay. As long as they don't harass me too much, it'll be all right. I want to do, and if I have time to film this weekend, then I'm going to do this because I want to have some content up on the YouTube channel while I'm out of town, while I'm overseas for a couple weeks. So I want to do 2 videos. And this is what I was mentioning earlier on the Discord. I want to do a Has-Been Hotel song tier list, which is what I was telling Capri-san about earlier. And I want to do a character tier list. And rather than do it on stream, they'd be recorded videos of me talking and then going through all that, and they'd be up there for people to check out. So I have some tier lists that I found that I can use. And if I have time this weekend, I got some stuff going on, but if I have time to sit down and record those, it'd be a good opportunity to get back into YouTube video editing again. I haven't done that in a while. So we'll see. Capri-san says Wazzy is already attracting weirdos like Toasty Femboy. Is that one of the community members? I haven't. Well, I've been in and out lately, but I haven't seen a lot of the crew that's been around. Is that someone new that's part of the Toxic crew? I don't know. I need you folks to keep me informed since I'm not there all the time. But yeah, if I get those videos for YouTube done, what I'll do is I'll schedule them, and then I will post like a thing in the Discord when they go live, because I'll have access to Discord and whatnot. Let's see. Capri-san says, yeah, he posted straight porn. Like straight porn, apparently he got banned because he's underage and had like a single warning before the porn thing. I'd assume it was in the Discord, as opposed to on. You can't post stuff on stream, obviously, so I'm gonna assume it was in the Discord. And I'm sure Sourlad would know about it because he mods over there. Oh, it's today, unless it happened and was gone before you could see it. Well, I know Wazzy is usually pretty lenient with people, you know, inadvertently breaking the rules, but if it's pretty blatant, then you're gonna get banned with the quickness for not following the rules. I get it. I would probably do the same thing since our Discord is not designed to be not safe for work. There are plenty of places you can go for not safe for work stuff. Oh, okay. Capri-san says, message had already been deleted before I got there by Wazzy herself. Oh, okay, sorry. That says reading the chat log and it's extreme Jesus. Well, let that be an example to anyone else who is not thinking about following the rules of a community. Think about the waste piece here. Capri Sun says, got 2 strikes, so I'm trying to stay out of everything when anything goes down. I think it just comes down to, just being civil when interacting with people in a community. I'm not speaking for Wazi's community because, I'm in there, but I don't see the day to day when a lot of people are talking. But it's like there's the expectation that not everyone is gonna agree all the time, right? I said the same thing in our Discord. I'm not expecting everyone to agree, but I do expect that everyone is respectful, And I know it's difficult, especially when people get heated about things, but just try and be as civil as possible when talking about stuff. I've never had to deal with that with you folks on my Discord, so I'm not calling anybody out, but I'm sure at some point it's inevitable. It'll happen, but just be civil and be respectful. And I think it's like Sour Lad is saying, it's got to be like a habitually problematic thing. If it's 1 or 2 instances, hey, everybody's human, but if it's constant and constant drama, constant problems, then that's what's going to get you booted. In our community, we've only had 1 weird instance, and it wasn't like a problem. It was just kind of strange. That one guy that showed up and I think I was talking to Capri Sun about this, but we had 1 weird guy kind of show up and I think try and stir trouble and then realized it wasn't working and just peaced out. Very strange. Yeah, Sarlet says verbal versus actual strikes. Yeah, I think it's one thing if you have to get kind of warning of, hey, tone it down, versus an actual incident, like an infraction where someone's like, okay, that's a strike. And every channel or every community has its own rules, right? But it's just one of those things on the internet. All right. Let's work a little bit more on the waste pieces. Had a couple ideas specifically for this one that I wanted to kind of get out of my head before we wrap up for today. This one's one of those waste pieces that kind of hangs down from the waist. I don't know what the name is, but I think the fictional reference comes from like a monastic scapular. Since that's the closest actual historical document I can find that sort of resembles that. And this particular race does like to use a version of that with some specific details. Oh, I see we got a hydrate and a stretch from Capri Sun and Sour Lad, respectively. I am out of smoothie. Capri Sun asks, Gafuel, if I was going for another hour, I would go grab some Gafuel. But I think since we're going to wrap up somewhat soon, I'm going to switch to water before I go and run around for a bit and get some exercise, which I need to do. Pre-Sun says I had to walk myself to the ER for a minor but sleep preventing thing. Again? Weren't you just in the ER like a week or a week and a half ago? Is everything okay? Also, you live walking distance to the ER. I guess that's convenient if it was ever, a critical emergency. I see. Well, hopefully, like I said, hopefully everything's all right. Oh, I see. 30-minute walk. Minor surgery, have an abscess removed. Won't even need to be knocked out. Just localized anesthesia. Oh, okay. So not like a super invasive type procedure thing. I gotcha. Well, again, hopefully all that is. It sounds like it's done, right? Hopefully all that is over and resolved. I don't have much clinical analysis to provide, but again, hopefully everything is okay. Oh, you're in the waiting room right now? I was under the impression it happened already, Capri Sun. Now it explains why you were gone for a minute. So you went to you're in the ER now and you went there. Okay. Well, again, good luck. Hopefully everything goes well and you can get back home and wait, you have to walk back home after getting well, yeah, be safe. Be safe. A couple things to talk about before we wrap up. This particular race, again, they're heavily water based. A lot of their culture and society is based around the water. Their outfits for armor, and this one is armor this time around, tends to be very covering on their bodies. Not like watertight everywhere, but unlike some of the other races that have like a lot of skin showing or less covering, these ones tend to be almost full body for their casual outfits and for armor. Oh, I did see a save reminder. And yes, get well soon, like Sour Lad says. And take care for sure. But a lot of the outfits here, whether it's casual wear or armor, tend to like fully cover the limbs, the torso and body and whatnot. And it's kind of layered, not necessarily like plates of armor, but layered textured material, like protective material. This is not a good example, but versus some where you might have kind of more cutoff stuff. Again, just more protective in general and meant for efficient movement in the water. So really kind of streamlined edges. You're not going to see like a lot of spikes and stuff like that. There is a race that does like to put that on their armor, but not this one. It's kind of sleek and streamlined. And same thing for the regular wear, which we'll definitely look at in the future, whether it's on stream or when I finish the concept for this one. And kind of designing something unique for that was an interesting exercise. What I looked at, kind of inspiration for how I came up with that design, was looking at like a lot of swimwear, like scuba gear type of outfits, and the way that contours and material for dive suits sort of forms around the body, and then adapting that into armor. Pre-Sun asks, is the water armor hydrophobic? Does it prevent water absorption? That's a really good question, and I would say probably not, because it's meant to be that's an interesting question. It's meant to be easy to provide easy movement and economy of motion in the water, and I actually don't know from a physics perspective how hydrophobic stuff behaves when it tries to move through water. When it's just placed in water, the stuff goes around it, it doesn't absorb. But when it's trying to move through water, I wonder how much the friction and restriction of movement and moving through fluid works when it's hydrophobic. So that's an interesting thing I haven't really thought about. I might have to do some research and get like a lore-based answer. But considering this particular race like lives and breathes underwater, it's probably going to be whatever's the most efficient. Yeah, like Sourlad says, it's more designed to be hydrodynamic as opposed to like hydrophobic. But I honestly don't know. I'm kind of curious to see how that would work. Pre-Sun said, I didn't even think of that. I was just thinking, if they come up out of the water, are they dry quickly for cold environments? Yeah, what I kind of envision is, like, for most things that are traversal outfits, as opposed to just, non traversal outfits, that's not a very good definition, but if someone was going to be traveling through the water, their outfit would basically be watertight at every major part, so that when they get out of the water, they're not having to deal with water under their clothes. And I think it'd be the same for armor. It's like the armor would be on top of basically like a entire body suit that covers the entirety of the torso down to the limbs, maybe cutting off at the wrists and ankles for the shoes and gloves or whatnot. But it would be designed so that the water is not retained like in different parts or underneath, because it would weigh someone down out of the water and make them very heavy. So I guess the short answer is it's probably designed so that they don't retain the water. So maybe it'd have to be treated with something hydrophobic so it doesn't absorb it like a sponge. Or it would be something like the material used in dive suits, where it doesn't really absorb water. That's a good question. I'm going to have to think about some in-lore ways to address that. That's good. I guess that's one of the plus sides of doing this on stream. You folks can ask me questions I might not have thought about when it came to the lore construction for this project, which is good. That's very much appreciated. Yeah. That's what I'm getting at, Sourlad. Kind of like latex or something that's watertight and not porous. Probably not something that's one for one like latex, but designed to be similar. Again, like dive suits and scuba gear is what I kind of used as the some of the inspiration for some of the wear and how the material looks. And then the armor is kind of like taking plating and putting it on top of like a dive suit or like a scuba gear type of armor. That's where it kind of comes from. As far as arm gear, I'm kind of going for kind of gauntlet bracer type of thing for the wrist, or the forearm up to the wrist, and then the big gloves on the hands down here. Hand position is going to be roughly the same, unless I feel like I need to show off something. What did you post in the memes Discord? I had it open since I wanted to see that fade one you talked about, and I just saw what you posted. Sour Lad. You can choose one. Fox girlfriend, she loves you. Fox girlfriend, she can make food for you. Well, I know what I would choose. I invite everyone else there to chime in however they would like. I will answer the question here since I just happened to see it. I would choose the first one because I already know how to cook. And one of my favorite things is cooking for other people. So I don't need someone who can cook for me. I would rather cook for somebody else. Could thank my last job for that. Sorry, that says I'm burgering my bobs right now. You making burgers? Wait, are you at work? No, it's too early. Well, actually, I don't know. You're in a different time zone than I am. Are you at work right now? So, what did I tell you about watching streams while you're at your job? I don't know. I'm not your parent. You can do whatever you want. Ah, I see. You don't work Tuesdays. I have never seen Bob's Burgers. I am a big fan of H. John Benjamin, who voices Bob. And I've not seen the last couple seasons of Archer, but I really liked Archer, and he's the main character in that. He's a funny man. I did not see the little Bob in the back. It's kind of light. I see it now. I understand. I understand the reference now, Sarah. Let I see it. Grayson says he's also voices the Master in Venture Brothers. Yep. Orpheus's master. He shows up there. He shows up kind of all over the place. You ever want a good listen? Because I think it's on most streaming platforms. You can watch it for free on YouTube as well. Look up H. John Benjamin's jazz album. I know I've talked about it here before, but it's been a little while. He did an album called Jazz Daredevil. It is one of the most brilliant things I've ever heard in my life. I think it's like five tracks. Just Google H. John Benjamin Jazz Daredevil and listen to it. I'm not going to give away anything about what it is, but it's brilliant. Oh, he was also Lucifer and Lucy, daughter of the devil. I have not seen that. Okay. Well, I gotta pay attention to the time before it gets too late. Let us take stock of what we got so far. I ended up having more ideas for this one than I thought, hence why we're still here now. But for this particular one, I will need to finish adding more details, obviously, but I think we got a good start. A lot of the color paletting definitely will set this one apart from the others. For this particular race, the color paletting on outfits, a lot of blues, grays, pale greens, not really a lot of striking colors like red or orange, but a lot of like water shades essentially, which makes sense. Let's go ahead and save this. Oh, Lucy, daughter of the devil was Adult Swim, early 2000s. I see. That makes sense. Alright, I need to stop paying attention to all the memes you folks are posting, or we'll be here all night. That is interesting, though. Do you folks see the PewDiePie video where he drew like every day for a certain amount of time and learned how to draw anime? I need to go watch that. I saw a lot of people on Twitter talking about it, but it's pretty cool. For anyone who thinks it's impossible to learn how to draw, that's a really good video to look at and see. Sarlat says moral oral, but man, they went too deep with the themes and got canceled early from 30 to 13 episodes on the final season. I remember moral oral, but I never saw it. It was pretty strange show, but definitely kind of pushing the line of what you can put on TV from what I remember. All right, let's look back at what we've done today. I think the second one went faster than the first. I will hide this. Our first concept series, we were able to get all the way through, full set of faces and outfits. Whoop, I'll get back here. And again, I got to think of some other things I want to put into these reference sheets. Could be like another face, or maybe even another set of models. I'll figure that out later. I guess I can show you guys the first one I did. It's a different race that we've not seen yet, but it's not done. And I'll have to mess with the formatting a little bit. But this is the one that has a lot of like the adaptations of plate armor and stuff. So I gotta finish this one. I forgot. I thought I was done with this second one over here, but I'm not. Brisson says, I think my fine motor skill issues are caused by my spinal cyst, which will likely be confirmed Friday. I think a lot of more oral is all on YouTube. Is it? And then Brisson says, once the cyst is taken care of, I'll actually be able to learn to draw. Well, that's good. Hopefully, once all that stuff is done, nothing will be standing in your way and you'll be able to practice. That's all it takes is practice. So this one I gotta finish. This was our first one, and our second one we're making progress on. So again, not a huge amount of stuff done, but at least it's a little bit. And the whole point of doing this on a stream is to chip away at this project while I'm doing all the writing and stuff. So expect to see more updates and progress as this thing goes. And down the road, I might make this information public so you folks can see it. I haven't decided that yet. It won't be until all the information is done. So we'll have to see. But we will go ahead and call it there. Starlad says, I've been tinkering with pixel art and it's fun. Oh, have you been using Aseprite? I thought I saw that you mentioned that you were using Aseprite at some point, Sourlad. If so, how's that going? Oh, let's see. Let me go figure out who's online while we're wrapping up. We could raid Wazzy. I see Froggy is on tonight. It is art day. We could go spread the good vibes to the Toxic Secure crew. I did see that RPG Maker is free, Capri Sun. I grabbed it today. If you... I don't know how much longer, but if you're interested in making games, grab RPG Maker XP because it's free for now. And then at some point it's not going to be free anymore. So you might as well grab it and just put it in your library while it's free. Especially you, Sourlad. I know you're looking at game design. So if you haven't already grabbed it, I would grab it while it's free. All right, let's pause the BGM. And we'll mute you and go to outro. And we will call it a stream for today. Thanks for hanging out and chatting. A lot of good discussion as always with you folks. I appreciate you hanging out and listening to me kind of talk about this project that, again, I haven't talked about a ton, but making sense of my ramblings. We will be back on Thursday for more Dyson Sphere. We'll be continuing our progress there. And then the release party for Titanium Force is this weekend. I will probably mention it at every stream. And I did put the event in the Discord. And as long as I don't forget to make it go live when we actually go, then that will be something this weekend. So until then, again, hope everyone has a good rest of your night. Now let's go see what Wazzy and Froggy are up to on the Toxic stream.